2, 1. All right. Welcome everyone to the first of 4 sessions to celebrate Black History Month, being brought to you by Intrusion Diversity System and our sponsor, Untitled Security. This is really something we came up with earlier in the month as Sienna and I tossed around, thoughts around what can we do for, to celebrate this month, the significance of this month, and really combine, one of our favorite passions and quite possibly what pays our bills in regards to cybersecurity. So we went ahead and we set up 4 sessions. 2 of those are in collaboration with the Share the Mic and cyber campaigns, and 2 of those are just kind of singularly based with IDS. So if you are interested in joining the next 3, feel free to ping us at IDS. You can ping us at IDS_podcast, I believe, on Twitter, or you can ping me at Sir Mudblood on Twitter, or ping Sienna. What's your Twitter handle again? I should know this by memory.
At C squared. So the 1 and the 3 replace in leak speak. But if you are interested in signing up to participate in any of these panels, sign up as soon as you can, because the spots are filling up quickly. And who knows, maybe with how many people we're having sign up, we might do it again for some other celebration. Who knows? So yeah, we're really looking forward to this collaboration. We're really looking forward to this opportunity of all these participants that have been signing up. And one of the participants that have signed up for one of these events has joined us today, Sir Nico Smith. Here.
Hey, how you doing?
What's going on? Yeah, thanks for sticking to the schedule. We had some scheduling issues. Some people dropped out, but we keep the show going. So. And we are happy to have you here. So I think, when we, I know one of the areas that actually I'll let you introduce yourself, because I know you. It's like I feel like I almost did your intro for you, but do you wanna introduce yourself?
No, I don't. Just kidding. Just kidding. Hey, how you doing, everybody? My name is Nico Smith. I go by the call sign Socks. Something that I picked up along the way within my cyber journey. I'm currently part of a cyber protection team for the Maryland Army National Guard. I have some years experience there, but I got specifically recruited or identified for my expertise in developing blue team and red team capabilities throughout engagements. So my civilian experiences as of yet is I've secured some data space or an actual data center. And what I've been doing with that is kind of putting together a learning and a training range where people can come and participate in SOC CTF. Along those lines, I've been put into the position of Director of Red Team Operations and CTF for Blacks in Cybersecurity. I'm the Red Team lead, or the CTF lead, for Military Cyber Professionals Association. So if you're interested in getting involved in any of those type of things, or if that piques your interest, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to share the knowledge.
So I'm curious, you've dabbled in both red and blue side. Which side intrigues you more?
To be honest with you, this is my personal opinion, right? After a while of being involved on both sides, you start to understand that they're pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. I started out blue. I started off working help desk and IT support like everyone else, and learning, getting opportunities, because leadership, I like to tell people, life is nothing if your superiors don't empower you to do more and to take on heavier loads. And in one case, my heavier load was going through over I think it was 46,000 logs in a 24-hour period. And they really loved me. I can feel the love. But after experiencing both the defensive and the offensive side of things, I've come to realize two things. One, real red teaming, and I mean this in every sense of the word, we don't get to witness very often. And that's not because we don't have talented people or talented individuals. It's because red teaming or offensive behavior is typically illegal, right? So the only time that you really get to see it performed is when you're part of a breach. So when I'm implementing or emulating red presence on a blue infrastructure, what that's doing is I'm trying to prepare or enable blue team or defensive strategies amongst a corporation. So, so when you ask me if I prefer blue or red, I would say, red, only because red enhances blue. And and that's kind of where I come from it. I'm not here to destroy you and then leave you in the dust. I'm here because your company or the organization as a whole has recognized that there's some benefit in seeing where their weaknesses may be, and they enable me to enable you to be more defensively postured.
Oh yeah, I figured, I honestly, for whatever reason, I thought you might say purple, just like the blend of the two, because they, like you said, they marry. Well, they're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, it is kind of rare to see like a team go to like operate in no restrictions too. Like I've only seen that a few times from a red teaming perspective, and like I think that's where there was a company I was consulting with called Nisos. They're out in the DMV area, and they're probably one of 3 companies that I've seen that actually take on. We'll have to get Tyler on the show. Tyler Robinson can go really in depth on this stuff. He's pretty beastly when it comes to red teaming. But Nisos, and there's 2 other firms that I've seen that actually do take it from the full on attack life cycle, kind of like, they don't destroy, but it's really, like if you think about what happens from a red teaming perspective, most of the times inside of a firm, it's like, okay, cool. Here's your engagement. Here's the SOW. Here's your terms, right? We're going to give you a box. Once you have that box, this is the area of the network you're restricted to. Stay within these boundaries. And when I've seen, when I think about stuff like that on the offensive side, and when I've seen, actual campaigns, me chasing down like from hacktivists and nation state actors, like watching them go from research to, probing, identifying an app, probing, API services, mapping out the API calls, and then identifying weaknesses from an entry perspective, and then actually gaining access. And then from the access side, of course, hooking, moving laterally, creating persistence, and then moving towards exfil. Like you don't really see a lot of red teams actually doing that. I know SpectreOps is kind of one of those places that has some pretty in-depth, red team operations, but it's, I feel like a lot of the times when we say pen testing, it's like a golf handicap. It's like, well, you're not really doing it all. Like we're giving you, we're telling you where it is, in a sense. Like when we say don't go to this part of the network, that's a pretty good indicator that that's where the secret sauce is, right? You know what I mean? Like we're basically laying it out for you.
Well, look over here.
Wait, hold on. Let's scope this a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Because when you say red team, people's ears perk up and people get really excited because they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go in and own a box. But I don't think that we really take into consideration. Let's just kind of look at and unpackage what you just mentioned, right?
Yeah.
As an adversarial threat, right? And I'm to emulate these things, of course, tailored to your organization. This isn't done in an hour, and it's not done in a week. This is you've hired me, and you're paying my consultant fees at least for 3 months, right? So for 3 months, however I use that time, right? We gotta recognize if we're going to research and identify key weaknesses inside of an infrastructure, that's going to take time. Not only is that going to take time, but then I need to create relationships. I got to leverage. Again, here's a bow of my hat to my name. So we got to create a few sock puppets out there that exists. That's then
You're
gonna
corny.
that's gonna go ahead and enable trust, right? Because why wouldn't I tell you that I just got promoted to being the network engineer over a primarily Cisco environment on LinkedIn? Like, why wouldn't I say that? And why wouldn't I look up ways to harden my firewall on Reddit? So all of that information gathering and then the weaponization of that information takes time. Right. So where most people think, and this is from new people to even like some of the blue team defenders that I've talked to, right? They were under the thought process, and I think that the media does a really good job at capitalizing on the sensationalization of the results of months of research. Or, by the way, I don't know, this hacking group decided to go after this target, and oh, by the way, that's interesting. Let me see if I can, because they didn't clean up very well, or they're saying something in the whispers of the other more creepy parts of the internet. So why wouldn't I want to inject hook and pivoting procedures into that? Because they did all the work for me. They gained initial entry for me. So all I'm going to do is ride on your MSO 87 in order for me to start leveraging CVEs as often as I can. Because I mean, the less work that I do, the more profit that I can enjoy. Right?
Yeah, true.
So I think that I'm really excited about the direction that our community is going with, really normalizing the idea that to pop a box isn't just, hey, I downloaded something off of GitHub every time. Sometimes it is, but I think that we're starting to have a honest conversation about the hard work that goes into defensive measures. All of that, the log intelligence that's associated with the information that you're aggregating at your endpoints, right? And I'm very hopeful for the direction that we're going.
Yeah, and you mentioned you said community. We'll get back to red teaming, but being that it is Black History Month, something that I was thinking about as we were standing this up today was, and I actually had a call with another organization that focuses on blacks in cyber. Not big. It was like another organization. We were talking about what are some of the areas that we see people kind of navigate into, and we just had this conversation with Les McCullen like literally last night too, around when you think about the numbers, let's think that it's about what 3 to 5% of the industry are people of color. Sorry, not is, are people of color. Being that it's Black History Month, I'm kind of curious to hear everyone's thoughts around, well, what do you think are areas of that you're seeing a flood of people kind of flock towards? Like we say offense. I know in some of the organizations I work with, that's mostly what you hear from the younger individuals, right? You hear a lot of, I want to move into offense. I think we've made like this easy bake oven type of like plan for individuals to move in offense in a sense. Maybe it's not fully realistic, but when you think about, us moving into cybersecurity, whether that's on the technical side or the GRC side, policy, auditing, IoT, whatever it may be, I'm curious on what your thoughts are with like, where do you see more people coming into this industry and focusing at? Because I see I see a initial want on the red teaming side, right? And something that I think you typically encounter, at least I have as like a hiring manager and sitting through, I don't know how many interviews I've been a part of, is a lot of the times individuals don't really realize what's truly needed to be successful as a pen tester, right? Because yes, you can take, this is no knock against any of the certifications, but you can take, you know, OSCP, you can take some of the SANS classes, but that's likely only going to be relevant for a year or so, right? Like some of those techniques that you've learned, we on the defensive side are incorporating that into our practices too. So what you learned in 2017, you know, minus some you know, older systems that due to maybe applications that are running or due to just the tech stack that's in play that maybe hasn't been upgraded or maybe hasn't been swapped out. You know, there's still people running XP, let's be honest. There's still systems out there that are literally XP. You can jump on Shodan right now and find XP systems, right? But what I see is a lot of people that are kind of focusing on like, I want to go on the offense, and which is great. I love to see like that energy and that enthusiasm. But I think about it, I think if you spoke to those same people 2 years down the line, they've likely shifted into another area, right? Because I think to be a great pen tester, and not to make this a pen testing segment, but we're already speaking about it, but I think to be a really good pen tester, you need to have that bit of creativity on your own, right? Like something I always say is like, the people you're chasing don't have OSCP. Like the people that you're going up against day in and day out. You know, yeah, there are, you know, quote unquote script kiddies out there that are just grabbing Metasploiting Cowboy packages and just throwing them against whatever sticks. But the really talented individuals out there are fairly creative. I liken them to artists in some ways. Like they have a mind to create and a mind to try something different and go outside the bounds. And when you're chasing those people down, you know, I don't think you can kind of quantify what's in their mind with like a certification, right? Like by that, I mean, like, I don't think you can actually take a brain dump of that and turn that into like a certification you could have at scale.
Yeah. You know, I just want to jump in there real quick.
Yeah, of course.
I think something that I've noticed going to like conferences and some like events and even part on like the recruiting side, I've seen an influx that in GRC, honestly, of younger individuals and even just like people that are of minorities, Black, Latinx or Latino, Latina, however you want to identify yourself as, influx in going into GRC and going into doing standards and procedures and setting up compliances, where those standards are helping enforce those the policies. I've seen a huge influx in that. I also have seen a lot of people have transitioned. Now, granted, I'm pretty new to the field as well, but I've seen a lot of people make a transition or have met people who've made transitions from business units that have been in the more financial silo, making that transition over into cybersecurity. Again, more in the compliance GRC segment of cybersecurity. And that's where I've been seeing a lot of growth in diverse people of different backgrounds, honestly, and different mindsets. I would like to hear what y'all think too. I mean,
I think the GRC side is definitely valid, because you see, I think from GRC, it's I'm trying to think of the best way to state this. Moving into GRC from other areas or other verticals it seems to be kind of almost like a seamless transition. Like a lot of the people that I know from that are either new, like, you know, we'll say less than 5 years from a GRC perspective, came from some auditing background, whether that's just typical IT auditing or they're coming from finance. And like there's this weird, I wish I had the numbers in front of me. There is like which you wouldn't think that, but there is like this weird growing percentage and growing number of individuals transitioning out of like financial regulation roles into IT and into security specifically, because it's almost like from a regulations perspective or from an auditing perspective, it kind of is a fit for GRC. You just need to learn the terms from an information security perspective.
I'm glad that you said that, O'Shea. I have to agree with the point that you made about transition. So I'm going to try and answer your question, putting on keeping my civilian hat on, but then switching over to what I see in the military space or governmental spaces, right? So on the civilian side, I got to agree with you. There is a large growth in auditing, right? Which makes sense, right? I think that it makes sense because you don't have to necessarily be hands on keyboard, but if you can understand the process and how frameworks work, and you can articulate what risk looks like to your different horizontals and vertical leaders within industry, then I mean you're golden. It's at that point in time, it's analytics. Then you can learn some Python on the side, and then kind of get lots of qualitative and quantitative metrics in order to drive success of your particular industry. But I will say that I see a lot of people of color. I think Mr. Robot is for this generation what hackers was for our generation, right? So
that's a good analogy.
Hackers and war games and hey, I stumbled upon this thing, and the curiosity and the excitement that is personified inside of your hacker hero, I think captures the spirit of what people of color or any people see, right? And when I think about, I go back to growing up on the south side of Chicago and understanding kind of what the criminal element is, because there's an abundance of that archetype within the culture. Then there's a Robin Hood complex that I start to see also, where it's like, hey, because there's nothing that can really stop me from going down the path of learning how to hack and how to pen test. And guess what? Those are the higher paying jobs anyway. So why wouldn't I, just from a position of empowerment and economic gains, not focus in that direction, right? However, where I would like to see a larger percentage of people of color is more in the blue space, and more and I would like to see them more in the in the research realm. The reason why is because if you can research and really understand how a nefarious actor went from left of the bang to right of the bang, or from start to finish, then that's a lot of added benefit. And guess what? Security researchers make up a very small portion of the InfoSec community, and those who do it well, and they are paid for. They're paid for that, right? So if we start turning our attention toward building a little bit more security researchers within our community and kind of big upping that idea, then I think across the entire spectrum of information security, we're going to start seeing capabilities grow and reach different layers. We're going to get better individuals that can identify or correlate metrics that help and end up with quicker resolution of issues. I do think it's a very quickly attainable resource, but I don't think that the fanfare has gone in that direction. So not a lot of people there. In the military sector, I see a large concentration of people of color in the defensive realm. I'd like to shake that up. I'd like to see the inverse of what's happening in the civilian sector to happen within the military sector. I'd like to see more people of color, more Black faces that are the offensive arm of the military, so to speak, within cyber, versus the abundance of others.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And when you, and I think, again, this is something that kind of came to mind earlier today when you think about, Black people and also, just in general, like people of color coming into the field. I know that there's like, especially this month, there is like loads of talks and papers. For some reason, you don't see this throughout the year, but loads of talks and papers around, what do we do to get those numbers up, right? If you remember, like the last 4 or 5 years, we kind of banked on the 2021, the year of 2021. That by 2021 there were going to be 3 million jobs that were going to be unfilled in cybersecurity. And what the heck did we do there? How do we get, not even just focusing on just getting those jobs filled, but how do we get those jobs filled with more people of color? And something I've said for some time, there's a lot of the typical answer is, early introduction to security, right? So early introduction being, how do we incorporate security into high schoolers and into college students? I think, that's the high school one is an uphill challenge. I'm not an educator and I don't work for for a school district, so I don't fully have an answer there. But when I think about the introduction aspect, my thing is like, I think you have to kind of lower, I don't want to say lower the standards, but make more realistic expectations of what they need to do coming through the door, right? So when you look at, someone that's brand new, let's not say brand new, you just graduated school, or maybe not even graduated school, you've taken the advice of the industry and you started getting all these certs, but you still can't find a gig, right? Is there something wrong with the message and the communication in regards to why you need to take those certs? Or is it, the employers aren't really living up to backing that play, right? So when I say backing it up, I mean, are you really going to take the chance on someone? And I think a lot of the times the answer is no. You don't really see employers looking at junior level individuals. And I've been in those, being in like director positions and management positions, I've been in the rooms where I have to sit down with my team after we interview someone, and when it's someone that's kind of fairly new to the game, a lot of the conversations like, well, I don't know if they have, the capabilities and experience. Like, well, we know they don't have the experience. So let's just go ahead and wipe that off the table. Like, there's no point even going into that. But the question I always ask, and this is what kind of led me to create NoHat and then start focusing on building out like the cyber range product I've been working on the last year, like year and a half or so that we're close to releasing, is, maybe there's a way to take that chance on someone, either A, because we have a solid onboarding program and we understand like what this person is going to be responsible for and what their duties look like from day one, but not just on the 90-day plan. I mean like day one to day 364, right? Like we have a pure idea of what it's going to look like for the first year. Or B, we have, training material that we can throw them in. So when you think about that 10-20% of the time when someone should be, quote unquote, researching or learning on the job, we go heavy there. And I think a lot of companies just aren't really following up on that. So there's a massive disconnect in, hey, we want to take chances with more people, but once you come through the door in your interview, we're not really going to follow up there. I'm kind of like curious on what some of your thoughts are, either one of you on what those barriers are and what you've run into.
I'll let Nico go first on this one.
Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure you was watching my brain kind of erupt and ooze out of my ears here.
I saw the wheels turning.
Oh my gosh, you're touching a very passionate thing to me, Mr. O'Shea.
Barriers are passionate.
I'm. Oh my goodness, no. I think that somehow we got stuck as not as a community, but I think not as industry, but as a community, as a culture. There's so many things, and when I say culture, I mean in this case a security culture, where we're judging fish by the ability to climb a tree. Like, I mean, I'm watching people looking to hire junior analysts, right, with 5 years experience, and not only 5 years experience. OSCP is a must,
and a master's,
or
equivalent.
And I've worked with people who have master's degrees who don't understand what we're doing. And I think that speaks to a much greater issue. I have zero issue, and I understand what certification is supposed to do. Certification, from my understanding, is supposed to normalize the expectation of the industry, right? You go, you get your A+ certification, your Sec+, your Net+. I should, within a reasonable amount of assurance, expect for you to be able to tell me about Northbridge and tell me about how TPUs interact with the overall processing or security of the processor. I should be able to, with a modicum of surety, be able to broach certain topics and expect reasonable answers. But what that doesn't take into consideration for is what existed previously. So in different situations and with different groups who want to do cybersecurity offensively, you have to try out. And if you don't have the skill sets, they'll shame you until you move on, because that's just what it is. So there was a way for, it's referred to now as gatekeeping, I think, but I think that's an overstretch of the word. I think a way that we could really start addressing the issue, and I'm sorry, I hit maybe 4 or 5 different areas, but I think a way that we could probably introduce realistic goals is a real adherence to the idea of investing in people as people, right? Yeah. So if I say, O'Shea, you for instance, there's something that's out there for teenagers. There are things that exist for teenagers to get smart and compete for within cyber, and that in turn, it's called Cyber Patriot. It's something that's part of a whole lot of different high schools. I can't say every high school, but a lot of them. In that case, there is some movement toward trying to support, build, develop, and inculcate this idea of security not as job, but security as lifestyle, as viable way for me to move from point A to point B and have some securities in life where I can, where I can get better and continue doing things. So I think that, I mean, to be honest, if you said, hey, this is your ball of yarn, Socks, and you need to solve it, here's how I would solve it. I would start off with passing a national strategy focus not on STEAM, right? I would focus specifically on developing cyber capabilities specifically, right? I would push that out to the underserved communities to ensure that those people are getting the access to those resources, and I wouldn't allow larger corporations to be the mitigating factor. And what I mean by that is a lot of times because and I have nothing against any of these companies, but because Apple and Microsoft aren't footing the bill, then it seems like it's an unachievable goal. We're completely ignoring the makerspace of Raspberry Pis and Arduinos, which are $35 computers that people could learn a lifetime of security practices on that aren't so pretty. And also, you can't sell them for drug money. So in drug affected areas, we have built-in security there, right? We move from there, right? I've already touched the high schoolers, so I'm expecting college students to then start moving into this space, and we have to be honest about the here's what I mean. O'Shea, what's the last thing that you did that had to do with cyber in the last? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. What's the last thing that you did that had to do with cyber in the last day? That wasn't that didn't have anything to do with being paid.
Oh crap! I don't know. Probably being in the lab. I mean, messing around in my lab with Skady, which is
Okay.
It's like an open source incident response tool. So mostly in the lab. Lab time is a big portion of my life.
Okay.
Professional life.
And I bring that up because that's an intangible thing. You have passion and desire, even at the detriment of making money, right? Because in your mind, those things will come and it will develop you later. So we need to start supporting and finding ways to identify people who would come and do their job for free. I mean, not that we should not pay them, but there's a large part of I know a few people of color that's out there that just love what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no reward system that's there. And I'm not saying that there should be, but we should have some way to identify that behavioral pattern. Because if we get more of those type of peoples, like for instance, for me to take on a new job, any job, military, whatever, I walk in and I say, hey, I either want to go to DEF CON by you paying for me to go, or I want to be allowed the time off so that I can pay for myself to go.
Yeah.
And that should communicate to my future employer that I'm serious about the industry. Not that I want to go and party, but I'm serious about the industry. So I've been talking for a while. I'm going to cut it off. But those are the ways that I would go about solving it, and some of the issues that I see within getting qualified talent and really, really standing behind our words when we say that we're interested in supporting more diversity and more people of color being present within our space.
So I'm going to interject this one little thing, and I'll try to make it short because there's a question that I really want to I want to hear y'all's answer to. But I do think that in our community, something that's very important to get those who do not have the experience already for these entry level positions because, you know, like you said, O'Shea, and I'm sure Nico, you've been maybe in a similar position where you're part of the hiring process and somebody doesn't have enough experience, and unfortunately there's not somebody in the room that's able to advocate for them or somebody to champion that person and say, yeah, I know this person is passionate because they're doing X, Y, and Z on the side. They have their own lab, they're doing these CTFs or whatever projects they have set up at home or they've been a part of in school or some club or organization. So because of that, I think something that's important, and I say this from experience of being a non-traditional technical college student, is networking and willing to ask, to connect with other people, even if you have like a slight similarity to them, whether it's like a mutual organization or the school that you happen to go to. I know recently I had an old colleague from a past life, from my hospitality life, reach out to me. We haven't spoken in years. And he had seen that I was in cybersecurity and he's been trying to get into cybersecurity, and just to pick my brain. And I was immediately like, yes, let me tell you all this information and help you out with some resources, to one day maybe connect him with somebody else and be able to be like, no, I know this person did X, Y, and Z. And I think, and I know, and you know what, and I know from my experience, that's how I got my foot in the door, was I was able to meet somebody and connect with somebody that was able to sit at the table and was able to champion and sponsor, I guess sponsor would be the word, but be able to champion me and say, hey, yes, she knows what she's talking about. She's passionate and she's been doing this, and this is why we should take a chance on her. Even though I didn't have any experience, work experience, but I had experience on hands-on keys and in a lab. And so I think, especially in like the minority community, whatever. I hate saying it like that, but
I know what you mean.
but that's the thing. Like, I want to see more people that look like me and more people that I identify with. And I've been and I've mentioned this before with O'Shea, but I've been fortunate enough that one of my first teams that I got to be a part of, we were an extremely diverse team, and I know that that's not the case with a lot of other people, and I took that for granted.
Yeah.
And now I'm in a position where I am not on a very diverse team, but they have diverse mindsets, and which is great because they're willing and they're open, and it's been a good experience so far. And I think that when you start connecting with other people and you're able to connect with people that are able to sit at the table, they'll be able to get you in the door. So I wanted to mention that, because I think even though we can't change how the industry is overnight, we can at least take action, take what we can into our own hands, especially as professionals, by either helping reach across the aisle, like O'Shea typically says. I love how that phrase, the reach across the aisle and help pull somebody in, or be able to ask for that help. I think that's something that's extremely important, and I think the other thing is, and we mentioned this, I think in our in our conversation we had with Les the other night, with people and in culture and different people's cultures, it's hard to ask for help. And I think that and some people I know myself, I thought it was more weakness if I was saying like I needed help, and I think that's it's a bad mindset. I think being able to ask for help, and that there's a strength in that, and I think that that's something that as a culture, either in cybersecurity or even just in a lot of other cultures, that's something that's important to learn, that being able to ask for help or identifying that you need help, there's a strength to it. And, you know, it only makes you stronger at the end of the day. But speaking of strengths, I'm going to move to the question that I want to ask y'all, which is, what is y'all's superpower?
Ooh.
Now, it could be in cybersecurity, it could be in your life, but what would you identify as your superpower? While you guys take a second, I'll say mine. I think it's invisibility. I think I have been lucky enough to figure out how I can blend in with other people, become like a wallflower, or be kind of blend in with the crowd. And I think it's helped me out tremendously, whether it was in my hospitality life or just in real life, because I like people watching. And it's also helped me in my cyber life. So, and also, something that I've come to terms with recently. Actually, I'm in a book club, and we've been going over this book, How to Be Anti-Racist. Something that I've come to terms with is that because I look racially ambiguous. Yeah, I can never say that word, but I think that has enhanced that superpower, honestly. And I've been able to mix with all different types of people, and I used to take offense to certain things when people ask me what am I, because I'm human, and it also just gives people a chance to try to figure out how they need to judge you. But I've turned that in, I think that's strengthened my superpower. So I'm going to turn it on to y'all, because that should have given y'all enough time to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, because you say superpower, my mind goes to like X-Men, and I'm like, I can't think of one. I mean, I would say, I don't know if it's like a superpower, but I guess like imagination, like most of the each time I've taken any one of those like personality like assessments or whatnot, there's always like a few key indicators. It's one's like creative, two's impatient. So it's like creative, like impatient, but also kind of like in. And I take the impatience. I try to deal with it. Like I know it's something I have to work on, but the imagination and kind of like the fearlessness is something that I kind of like value in myself. I know that that's true because that's just been like that way since I was a kid. Like I was into skateboarding, like rollerblade, and I would do like fairly dangerous activities. But when I apply it to like the world of like security, I think the imagination part is going to help me. Not, I believe it's definitely helped me get to where I am, because I approach problems a bit different when I am analyzing like data sets or whatever. At my heart, I'm an analyst. I grew up in the SOC, and that was a lot of like analytical work. So I can build, but I'm not like the engineer. Like I'm more of the, like, if you give me time and you give me, the appropriate data sets, I can tell you what's wrong over a period, a day or two, whatever, a week or something like that. And I think that's essentially what's helped me in regards to like, IR or reverse engineering, all those other areas. It's like the ability to kind of think, not what I would do, but put on the hat of, well, what needs to be done to be successful? And if you start asking yourself that question, like, what does it take to be successful as an attacker, even as like a human being in life, as you're moving through life, whether it's like, personal growth, finances, weight loss, strength training, whatever, like I tend to go like way outside of the box and go outside of like what I'm comfortable with from a thought process perspective. So that, and that's, I know for certain that's allowed me to catch different types of attackers when, I'm on a team of other security practitioners and everyone else seems to get stuck. I'm able to keep pulling out different artifacts or keep finding different clues, because I'm thinking outside of like, I think a lot of people take the approach of what would I do when they're analyzing, whether it's breach response, whether it's, just day-to-day security analytics where you're responding to alerts from a SIEM or IDS, EDR, whatever it may be. I think a lot of people, their mindset is on what would I do? And that's what I'm looking for. And I think of like, well, what would it take to be successful in this attack? And that's where I want to go search to try to find, those indicators of compromise or those IOCs, right? And I apply this to like the imagination side to my personal life, like, you know, starting a podcast, trying to do like a TV show, you know, like doing all these other things I have going on. It's not, it's not that I like have I'm acutely aware that failure is probably the most likely option in any of these areas. Like I'm like very vividly aware of that, but I don't really think about it. It's more like, you know, what would it take to be successful? I'm going to go down that route. And when you go down that route, you know, it seems like success and failure is two roads, but once you turn, you know, left on success, there's about 20 different avenues of how you get there, right? And that's kind of the way my mind just innately works. Like that's just how I approach life, and that's how I approach like this industry. So I don't know if like imagination is like a power, but I think that's kind of where, you know, I guess I would place myself.
You stole mine.
Yeah, that is not.
No, I would say shape shifting,
Like morph.
or yeah,
Okay.
or even like not the opposite of empath. Yeah, a person that can make other people feel feelings, I think.
Huh.
I would say more about shape shifting because of the different environments that I've found myself in. I've been able to negotiate via understanding what the room, being able to read the room really well, and identify like, hey, there's the power center right there. All right, let me move in that direction. And with engagements in general, cyber or otherwise, whatever I need to be or to do to get the thing done, to get the job done, is pretty simple for me. So yeah.
I like that.
No, that's a good one. And I know with, you know, there's probably been loads of webinars this month, you know, focusing, you know, again, not just not just Black History Month, but focusing on like African Americans and Black people, but also, I mean, in general, when you think about the industry, it's people of color. I'm kind of curious on, you know, what your thoughts are in regards to what someone, I don't want to say new to the field, so like this is anyone that's operating in security, but what do you think are kind of like the criteria for success? Like both of you are fairly successful in, you know, in your own rights, and, you know, and in your careers, you know, but I know, like, I go back to the imagination side, but that's not something I can tell someone to incorporate. I can't say, hey, you need to be more imaginative, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I could, but it's not. Yeah, I know. Imagine
Willy Wonka made a great song.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's not totally realistic, but, you know, I know something I tell junior individuals is, you know, it's not, this sounds super, you know, back of the cereal box, but it's really hard work. Like you're going to have to be able, you're going to have to be really willing to work hard. Like it can't be your 9 to 5. Like I say, if you want to be successful, if you want to earn money, yes, it can be your 9 to 5. But if you want to be truly successful in this field, I think it has to be more than just like a 9 to 5 too, you know, like it's going to be a decent amount of hard work. But this also goes back to like the question around what barriers exist. I think the networking side of things is super pivotal. At least I'll say it was pivotal to my success. Like I know for like over the last 4 or 5 years, like I haven't like applied to a job. Like, you know, I'll just tell some people that, hey, I'm looking. You know, there's a few key people, a few key peers in my life, and I can be like, hey, dude, I'm looking for a gig. I just left one, and then, you know, within a week or two, something comes my way. You know, it's not to say like I'm like this amazing person. Well, I think I'm pretty amazing, but it's not to say like I'm like this super, like, just like I'm the best security practitioner out there. A lot of it is just really the people that know me kind of know like my capabilities and they know what I bring to the table. So when people can advocate for you and you're not in the room, I think that's one of the largest symbols of success is when, you know, people, you have the ability to leave the room and there's still positive things being said about you when you're not even around, right? And I think networking is kind of key there. We work in a siloed industry a lot of times. Like I know as soon as, like, you know, when this is over, I'm going to turn off all the lights, sit here and keep banging out some research I'm working on, and which I'm happy to do that, but I also know how to turn it on and bring the interpersonal or interpersonal communication skills like to the table.
Right.
Like what are you guys just, you know, thoughts in that area, but, you know, like I guess what it takes to be successful.
Can I jump in before
No.
Okay. But before we jump into I'd like to describe what you were explaining about, you know, about opportunities that you get from your friends and or from work associates, from colleagues and things like that, and having that positive information being continued to be shared as protecting your brand. And I think that we don't look at ourselves as our own brand ambassadors. And if we could do that a little bit more, then maybe we will be more cautious of the way that we conduct ourselves in different situations. So I think that you've been able to identify and maintain your brand and ensure that, you know, people aren't diluting your brand by, you know, or you yourself diluting your brand by engaging in things that would hinder or blemish your standing that reputation. But that's all I wanted to share with what you said.
And areas like what do you think about the you know, the objects or criteria for success?
The criteria of success, I like you jumped into your imagination. I would say definitely with me in shape shifting, being to put it in programming terms, right? It's weird. Being content aware, right? So like if you're inside of an environment, just really, I guess that emotional IQ needs to play a part, right? And this is something that took me a while to get under wraps because of cultural behaviors. Like I didn't want to be no punk, right? So being sensitive to how people feel, but also having the ability to articulate how you feel without attacking a person's character, and just really truly speaking to the point has opened up a lot of doors for me. And being genuine. I just got a so in the military, you get what's called a OER, Officer Record Board, or a NCOER, which is for the non-commissioned officers. Those are your sergeants. And inside my OER, it said, and this is a officer that's like three levels higher than me. So that's like me being mid-level management and the C-suite representative for my vertical is looking down and giving me a performance eval. And inside the evaluation, they said that Nico is a genuine, authentic person. I've never had that type of understanding communicated inside of something, but and why that was important for me as a subordinate leader was that I felt seen in that moment. So what does that mean? That means that if at any point in time that individual wants me to work late hours or do something stupid that we have to do because you have to do it, that's less friction points that's going to exist. So that was a mentor, and also being able to identify those mentoring opportunities, because a lot of people say that they want mentors or they want to be successful, but they don't have the lens to properly see the opportunity and the times when life kind of shows you like, hey, you normally move like this. Here, I put you in this position so that you can see how to move in a different way, right? So I would say, regardless of where you're coming from, if you're a beginner or you're in charge of a multitude of people, try your best to be aware of what's expected of you. Definitely deliver. I don't like the idea of under promise, over deliver. I just think that means that you don't know how to assess yourself properly, because it can communicate and backfire. I do think that that interpersonal relationships matter, but very specific ones. And when it comes time to end them, you should do so as well, or recognizing when it's time for you to distance, that it's time for you to distance yourself from something that may hinder your brand or start causing problems for you to be successful. And definitely, hard work ethic beats out natural talent every day of the week. I used to teach martial arts, and I've seen some really talented kids, but I've seen kids that were able to harness that natural talent and put some strong work ethic behind it, and they became pretty successful. So I would say do that. And finally, I would say identify your 50-meter target, right? It's very easy in the cyber realm to become inundated or overwhelmed by all the options of the different paths that you can take. Find a singular thing. Think about it. I'm not saying do it. Think about what brings you joy, what drives your passion, and then identify, how and what part that plays inside of your day-to-day, and just work that. Find what you're good at and work on that. It doesn't have to be hard. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
I definitely agree with a lot of the things that you said. And I think for me, what has made me successful, as well as what I think would make other people successful wherever they are in cyber, would be to really leverage that EQ. I adopted it, or I grew that muscle from working in hospitality for a long time, and I was able.
Can you tell people what EQ is?
EQ being emotional intelligence, or what EQ, emotional
quotient.
There we go. Thank you very much. But yeah, so it's emotional intelligence of being able to read people, like Nico had expressed it a little bit earlier. Basically being able to identify and communicate well with others, and being able to be self-aware, and which really helps you become part of a team as well as leading. So I think that a lot of those things surprisingly are extremely prevalent in cybersecurity. I know for me, my concern was my technical skills, and I never realized how much I would have to lean on my soft skills slash like those soft skills, those interpersonal skills, and being able to communicate well, being able to read other people, whether, especially now, being on a video calls more than like in the last year, being able to read people, make sure things are being receptive, or if somebody's uncomfortable, and like Nico said, being able to deliver news or information in more of a diplomatic way, not so offensive, or being able to tweak it and read your audience and how you need to speak, or how you want to make sure things get communicated. I think a lot of those things have helped me tremendously, and realizing how much customer service is actually, those skills have really come in handy. I never thought doing, being in cybersecurity, working on internal teams, having to work with other business units that would be customer facing. I was just like, oh, luckily I get to be behind the doors. I don't have to interface with customers or humans. But that didn't stop. It just changed. It was just a different way of having to interface with those, with in my past life, guests or customers. It's just different clients, and it's just a different way of having to, they just have a different mask on, a different title. So those things, and something that I mentioned, it was mentioned to me when I first got into the field, and it's something that I often repeat, and I think both of you have said it, and I'll say it again, in a different way, but you can't teach passion. You can teach this, you can teach the technical skills. You cannot teach passion. And so doing like working on your skills and working in your lab when you're not getting paid, or in your downtime, even if it's not really like downtime, it's, overnight, because you just can't, you're just itching to mess around with a new tool, or do some research, or whatever it might be, that you can't teach people. And now you can develop that type of habit, but it gets you on a whole nother thing when you're actually passionate about what it is that you do. Don't force it. Yeah, there's good money in security, but you want to make sure you, at least for me, after working as a server and being like, what, I can make good money, I can do my hustle, walk out of my shift with a $300-400, whatever. At the end of the day, doing that and not really loving it, it got old real quick. And I think that, especially, and it can apply anywhere. It doesn't have to be cybersecurity. It doesn't have to be in IT. If you love something that you do, just go for it. It makes you happy, because, I believe that there's a limit. The income could keep rising, and then your happiness might plateau. So I think that's what that's my kind of, I guess, advice, or things that I say, and
Awesome.
That's helped me.
Can I you said something really, really cool earlier. Well, I liked all of your feedback, actually, but something that jumped out to me when you were talking about being in IT and not understanding how customer facing it was. I once led an IT team many moons ago, help desk team, and the issue with the organization was traditional. Your IT, your help desk guys, they're the least appreciated people until a problem happens. They're either being blamed for something, or it's either feast or famine. So a way that I sought out to normalize behavior, or to to humanize the IT team was, every Tuesday, when you were solving tickets, you had to at least solve 2 tickets in person. You had to get up from your desk, even if you could remotely solve it, get up from your desk, go and help the person one-on-one. So got a lot of pushback from the senior people who had been there for years. They're like, man, why are we going to do this? You're wasting time. We're not going to get all our tickets done. And I said, well, it's easier to fire that IT guy that I don't know than the IT guy that, I remember from the, that I remember has 2 kids, or that really enjoys crochet, or really beat us at Mario Kart because that's his or her passion. So from implementing that type of approach, not only did the overall morale improve on the team, but also from different business verticals or different verticals. We created a relationship across all of them, making it a lot more easy for the manager or for the department lead when it came time for us to ask for money or for additional days off. Because we had been performing, I mean, no real change in performance occurred, to be honest with you. We're doing the same thing. The difference was that we were getting feedback inside of those tickets that, hey, John came up and helped me for 15 minutes and his customer service was amazing, you know? So I think that's something, I think he hit a very key point about that interpersonal relationship and that customer service attitude when you're engaging with different people.
Oh, and even though, like you said, it might not have improved like the service, I'm sure it improved those relationships tremendously.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and build or rebuild like past relationships that might not have been on the up and up. Like it's incredible. You don't realize how much that human connection really can help in IT.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think we're at a good stopping point. I think we're ending on a positive note, which is that was unplanned. So it's always nice. What I would say to our audience is be sure to tune in for the next 3 episodes. We'll be airing this one.
This one should be airing on Thursday.
Thursday is the 4th. Thursday is the 4th. Yes, so we'll be airing this one on March 4th. So I guess it is March 4th when I'm talking about it now. So yeah, be sure to tune in for the edit that part out. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Sienna. Thank you, Nico, for joining us for part 1 of IDS's Black History Month and Cyber Celebration.
Yeah. Thank you for helping us kick this off.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I mean, who doesn't love a great pair of socks?
Okay. On that note, we will see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.